Hey guys, so tonight we're going to be talking about the two little boys that are missing from Cal City, California. They're Orrin and Orson West. They're the 3 and 4 year olds that came up or were reported missing on December 21st of 2020. It's now been over a month. There's still no arrest made, no real confirmation as to exactly what happened or where these little boys are. They were reported missing on December 21st around 5:45 p.m. by their adoptive parents, Trezell and Jacqueline West. Trezell reported that he took the two boys out to play with chalk on the back patio because Jacqueline was wrapping Christmas presents. They were the only 2 of 6 children home that evening. And the other kids were supposedly at grandma's house. And they had these 2, they say, because these 2 were the smallest, so they needed to watch over them, which could be true. Either way, so this is how the story goes so far, and then we'll talk about theories and other things that are going on. So Trezell reports that he took the 2 boys out to play with chalk on the concrete patio in the backyard. He said that they were only supposed to play on the patio, not to go in the dirt. He was going to collect firewood for the wood burning fireplace that they have. He goes in the backyard and I think out of the gate, and he's getting firewood out of this empty lot that's next to their house. And he was collecting the firewood, saw the boys, then I guess maybe he took the firewood in the house, and when he went back out, the boys weren't there, and he went back in and asked Jacqueline had she seen them. She says no, they were playing with chalk, and then he goes back out, doesn't see them, does a little look around the yard and thinks that he left the back gate open. Maybe they went out of the back gate. And then he gets in his van and he does like this 6-minute drive around hitting a bunch of corners is what he says. He makes a few blocks and comes back and then calls the cops, then stands around in the yard for 13 minutes not looking for the children, waiting for the cops. And when the cops arrive, I guess he gives them the lowdown of what went on. And then he gets back in his van and hits those same corners again, looking for the kids. And the cops went that same way as well. So I will play you the interview, and we'll kind of pause it along the way and go over different parts of it. Trezell and Jacqueline West, their actions and the words that they used in this interview that they gave to the media right after the kids were reported missing has really been critiqued and criticized, and it really made them look guilty. It really did not show them in a good light. And the biological mother was also interviewed around the same time. She, for some reason, was near the house. She knew where they lived, which they had just moved there a few months before, which is kind of strange for a biological parent to be at the adoptive parent's house or even know where they live. But maybe that was part of their adoption agreement. Now, one of the issues is none of the neighbors in Cal City ever saw these children outside or anything. They didn't see any of the children. You would think if you have 6 kids that somebody's going to notice some noise or somebody's going to see them outside playing. I mean, Trezell says that it's because of COVID they wanted to keep the kids indoors and keep them safe, which I get. But being cooped up in a house with 6 kids all the time, you would think that they would let them go in the backyard It was a fenced-in backyard. Why would you not let them go in the backyard and play? I mean, I would think kids would be more rambunctious if they're cooped up in the house all day, especially a 3 and 4-year-old, and then you have 4 other kids on top of that. Like, I would think you would want to go outside and let them run around and get some fresh air and kind of get their sillies out before you have to go to bed every night. So that part doesn't make sense to me. So another thing that is being questioned about this case is the number of kids that Trezell and Jacqueline had. So they had 2 biological children, and then they also had 2 foster children, and then they also had the 2 boys that are missing, which they had adopted. So that would be a total of 6 kids. However, it's been reported that Trezell and Jacqueline also gave 2 foster kids back because they were going out and smoking things that they weren't supposed to be smoking and getting into trouble, and apparently they were the older kids, and so they returned those kids to the system, which would put them down to 4 kids, which is what Trezell reported to the realtor or to the lady that gave him the mortgage, the loan, which is very confusing because at that time he should have had 6. However, some have speculated that the 2 that went back, maybe they belong to Jacqueline's mother, that Jacqueline's mother is supposedly a social worker and she also had foster children. I don't really know. And if that's the case, then maybe that's why these 2 individuals were allowed to have so many children from the system when their reported income is allegedly $10,000 a year. So I don't know why you would pull kids out of a system and put them with people who, for one, they allegedly have a criminal background history, and for 2, it looks like they're below poverty level. So why would they be approved to get even 1 foster kid, much less 4, in addition to their own 2 biological kids? It just doesn't really make sense. Another issue is the lady who gave Trezell the loan it was a personal loan for $5,000 for their down payment for the home in Cal City. And this lady was a mortgage lender or a loan officer, and yet she gave Trezell a personal loan for $5,000 so that they could get this house in Cal City so that he could move off the grid. So people are speculating about why she did that. I mean, she could have just said, hey, look, I think these are good people and they have all these foster kids, and so they must have a big heart, and, I want to help them along. Regardless, she is who Trezell told that he had 4 children. And that was somewhere between July and December of 2020 that he told her that. And like I said, around that time, according to every record that we found, he should have had 6 children. So that's confusing, and it's a bit confusing as to why she gave him the loan. I mean, that's not something that happens every day, We had to jump through hoops trying to get a house. So I don't, we didn't have anybody give us a $5,000 loan. I've never heard of that. But maybe she was a friend outside of the loan business. Maybe I don't really know. So as more information comes out about that, we will figure that one out. Now recently, it's been released that law enforcement spoke with the other children, the 4 children that were taken into custody after Trezell and Jacqueline gave their infamous interview. And these kids were missing, so they took the other 4 kids into custody. That would Again, very strange. Some have said the extra 2 to equal the 4 that they took into custody were actually kids of Jacqueline's mother's, that she had some foster kids, and just out of precaution, they took those back into the system as well because of all the stuff that was going on with this family. But I don't know. We don't have any confirmation as of right now. Also, thanks to a neighbor's security camera, and shout out to AV Watchman United We Stand. He was over and he got the neighbor's security camera footage and shared it with everybody. And you can see clearly the Trezell and Jacqueline West, the 2 adoptive parents, getting in the van on December 19th, 2020, with 4 kids. 4. And they leave. And according to what the other 4 kids that went into protective custody or back with CPS custody, according to what they told law enforcement, is that that's the last time that they saw Orrin and Orson West. That they have not seen them since the 19th when they left to go to the grandparents' house. However, that same footage from that same security camera shows that after Trezell and Jacqueline left with 4 kids, they came home with 0. None. So we don't know if those kids were coached to say the 19th, or if they're just confused, or what the deal is with that. So again, it's just really strange. Really strange. Alright, so after Trezell and Jacqueline West gave their infamous interview, the cops started from the inside out. They searched the house, they searched the property, then they searched the neighborhood, and then as things went on and they still couldn't find the children, they stretched out the search even further, and now they're searching all over the place. This is Middens. He's our cat. I guess he wants to get in the video. So anyway, they swept the chimney, and they supposedly dug up the backyard, although that's a little confusing as well. It's not confirmed that FBI or the law enforcement actually dug those holes. There's some like perfectly round holes, but there's not extra dirt out like next to them like somebody dug the hole recently. So they're saying maybe those holes were already there. They're not sure. But anyway, they did search the property very, very thoroughly. They searched the house. They searched the chimney. They took all the tech from the parents. They took cell phones, laptops, etc. They even took their van and processed all this stuff. So they haven't made mention, exactly what that is looking like or what evidence they got. But hopefully they got enough that they can do something to bring justice to these little boys. It would be great if they could find them, however that may be. So we're all out here just spreading the word and trying to shed light on it. It's kind of strange, like a lot of news channels haven't really talked about it that much, so everybody on YouTube is trying to share it. And AV Watchman, Nor Jasmine, Linda with It's a Crime, 10 to Life, Annie. These are all people that I watch and kind of delve my information from them because those are my trusted sources. I know that they do their research, and so anything that I share are things that I've learned from them, as well as I watch a few others like Duty Ron. I watch him. He's really good. He's a retired law enforcement. So yeah, just sources that I trust. That's who I go with. Not to say like others don't have the right information, but these are sources that I trust to do their research and share correct information. And if for some reason their information isn't quite on point at one video, they will correct that and tell you the correction later. So I like that. All right, also, the Cal City Police Chief shared some information, and I just wanted to kind of touch on it because if anyone's tempted to go investigate on their own, if you're in those areas and you want to, help and you want to look for these kids, or you want to go protest outside the property, or whatever it may be, don't go on the property. There's obviously been an issue that someone was videoing their self going on the actual property in the backyard of the Cal City home, the West home. And this is not good. They're a small force, so they don't have a lot of extra men to leave outside the house and make sure that nobody goes on the property, but not only out of caution, but just out of common sense. I mean, this potentially could be a crime scene, and there could be something that they missed, and the cops may have to go back a few times to collect evidence. And if there's been a bunch of people, or even just one person, trampling across this property, then the defense, when this goes to court, could easily say, well, that's contaminated. You can't use that evidence. That's contaminated. People were on that property after the West family left. And so they could even say it was planted. So don't go on the property, because if something happened at that house, for these little boys to get justice, we have to be able to use whatever evidence is there in a court of law. And we can't do that if the defense could use the scapegoat, basically saying, oh, well, people were allowed on that property, so it's contaminated. You can't use that. So just be cautious and be respectful of the case and of law enforcement. Let them do their job. I mean, you're welcome to film or, look or whatever it may be from the road, from the public areas, but don't go on the actual property. And that goes for the West home in Bakersfield too. The grandparents' house. Don't go on the property. Apparently, one of the neighbors is allowing people to go on their property. That's fine. But don't go on the West property, because if there is evidence there, we want to be able to use it. We don't want them to say, well, it's contaminated. Other people were on that property. So just be respectful and cautious. And yeah, that's all. All right, guys. As of right now, there is a $100,000 reward for any information that will lead to these boys. $100,000. That's a huge reward. So, I mean, that should be enough to bring anybody forward. And if there's a bigger issue and that person needs protection, I'm sure that law enforcement could help them with that. But, I mean, it started out at 10,000, then it went to 20, then 25, and now it's at 100,000. I mean, these little boys need somebody to come forward and say whatever they saw, no matter how small the detail may be. I mean, just come forward and say, hey, I saw this. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. But anybody that saw anything that, was out of the ordinary or was possibly some part of whatever happened, they should come forward and say, hey, this is what I saw, and I want to remain anonymous. There is an anonymous tip line, and I'll link that number in the description, as well as I will put it here. And recently there was a candlelight vigil, which normally that is done like we saw with the Lori Vallow case with Tylee and JJ. They usually do that like as a memorial after we know what happened. But in this case, I think it was really beautiful. They did it as a way to kind of light the way for the boys to come home. Kind of, shine some light in the darkness, because there's a whole lot of darkness in this case. Something's not right. And I think everybody can see that. There's still no official suspects. We don't know for sure who did this or why or how many people are involved, how big, whatever this is, how big it is. We don't know. A lot of people are speculating, saying this could be really big. This could be something crazy. Others think maybe, it was an accident, or not necessarily an accident. I don't think, hurting your kid to the point that you have to dispose of them or something. I don't think that's really an accident, but, some people say that maybe Trezell lost his temper and that maybe Jacqueline helped him cover up whatever happened. But I mean, there's two. Like, usually these cases, I mean, if a parent lashes out and hurts a kid and then they hide whatever happened, like, it's usually with one kid, not two. With two, that's definitely not an accident. I just hope these little boys are found and that they're found safe. But the longer it takes, the worse it looks. People are also asking if the West, Trezell and Jacqueline, if they were asked, number one, asked to take a lie detector test, and number two, if they took it or if they refused. And the chief did confirm they did ask them to take a lie detector test. But he didn't give any more information than that, so we don't know. Speculation is that they refused. But, I mean, it doesn't really do the chief any good either way to say, yeah, they passed it, or yeah, they took it, but no, they didn't pass, because, I mean, it's not helping us find the boys. It's not really doing anything. I mean, and you can't, a lie detector test isn't admissible in court. You can't use it really. It just kind of gives you, guidance as to, okay, well, they passed, but you could have a false pass. You could be lying and still pass, and you could be telling the truth and still fail. So that's why, I mean, they don't really rely on it for the case, but it would at least kind of guide them to say, okay, well, they looked really shady while they were taking the test, or no, they looked like they were confident in their answers. Maybe we should look into other options. But I think law enforcement's doing a good job right now. I think they're looking at every angle and they're taking tips, and I think it's just overwhelming, and they're a really small force. So, I mean, at least they have help from the FBI and Bakersfield and all that. But, I mean, in my opinion, don't sue me, my opinion, I think that that's why they chose to move to Cal City. I think that when Trezell said he wanted to get off the grid, to me, like, I mean, I live in the sticks. I live in the country. Like, we have cows as our neighbors. Like, we have chickens in the yard. Like, we're off the grid. If we wanted to get solar power and be off the grid and not use electricity and not, I mean, we live right by a river. We could divert the water and use the water. And I mean, to me, that's off the grid. Cal City was small. Their police force is small. From what I've heard, a lot of kids come up missing there. So I think this was a strategic move. And like a lot of people, I don't think that those two little boys ever made it to Cal City. I think that's the whole reason why they moved. Because something happened and they knew living in Bakersfield in their apartment complex, like, people might see something. There's a whole lot more neighbors in an apartment complex than there is right there in Cal City. I mean, they picked a house that has 2 empty lots on either side. And we can tell that Trezell knew, at least he knew that the people across the street had a camera because he parked his van in a certain way. And rumor has it that that's not how he always parked, but on that weekend, he parked to where the van would block that video camera from filming his front door. Why would you do that? Unless you have something to hide. So, another update. A neighbor of the West grandparents' home, which is the home on, we say Potomac, but Potomac, Wanda West and Philip West, which are Trezell's parents, their home in Bakersfield, where Trezell has been spotted. Not Jacqueline, but Trezell. No kids, but Trezell. He's been walking a dog and he's been there at that home. Their neighbor, who wanted to remain anonymous, Crenshaw Incorporated interviewed her, and Crenshaw also reported this to the police, the tip line, the FBI, all the right sources. So, good job. But this neighbor reported to her that about 4 months ago, which would have been, it correlates with the last time that anyone other than family reports to have seen these two boys, which was like the end of September. She reports that they had a big fire, a huge fire in the backyard. And it was so big, in fact, that the fire department was called. So there should be a record with the fire department about this call. Huge fire. Apparently, Philip West reported that he was burning trash, and that, how would you burn trash in your neighborhood? That big of a fire, really? Kind of shady. But he says that, he was just burning trash. They came and he put out the fire, I guess. And so anyway, the remnants of the fire pit where this huge fire was are still there. Crenshaw filmed it, took pictures, videos, shared it all on her channel. So check that out. If I can get some clips, I'll put them here. And Crenshaw also reports that there is a burned van seat. Yeah, van seat in that backyard, as well as several fire extinguishers, the fire pit, gas can, and a hole dug. So I know she made this tip and reported it to all the right sources. But as of today, no report of anything happened at that house as far as collecting evidence or whatever. But maybe they're on their way to do it. Hopefully the West family doesn't catch wind and clean up. I mean, they haven't cleaned up in 4 months, unless that is the result of it cleaned up. But I think when Trezell said in his interview, they're going to be here in this area, and he was talking about Cal City, I think that's a huge clue. He didn't want them looking anywhere else. Probably because whatever happened in Bakersfield. Probably whatever evidence there is in Bakersfield. In my opinion. Don't sue me. So, yeah. Also, another thing. People are going crazy and saying how the pictures of the West family house, I mean, it doesn't look like anybody hardly lived there. It doesn't look like kids were there. The pictures of the house are so empty. Guys, The pictures that people have been sharing are from the realtor site, from when the West were house hunting, picked this house. It's the same pictures that they would have looked at online and picked this house. Those are not pictures from when the West family lived there. The West family pictures that would have been taken by the police have not been released. We're not seeing crime scene photos or evidence photos. Those are just realtor photos from the house being staged to be sold by the last family or the realtor or what have you. But that's why it doesn't look like kids are there, because they weren't. That's not when the kids were there. So just to clear that up, those are realtor pictures that are from pre the West purchasing the house. They're not current photos from when the West family lived there. Okay? Just wanted to clear that up. Alright guys, so now we are going to go into Trezell and Jacqueline West, their interview that they gave with the media right after the children were reported missing. I'm going to play a little, and then we're going to talk about it. Because any blind man with a bag over his head would be able to see that something is not right with these two individuals. Also, I don't know about y'all, but the fact that these people have like multiples of these big white vans just makes me think about this. Seriously. Like, now they have missing kids, like, yeah.
We just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen. We felt so helpless, and seeing everybody out here really looking and helping out really means a lot. So, tell us what happened the night the kids
Okay.
from our yard.
It was cold. I was going to make a fire. There's a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two would go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. Keep them close. They was playing with chalk. I came in the house, saw them there. One house, came back out. I didn't see them now. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that didn't pan out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold. I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see me. So then I came home and I told my wife, we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We got to get going. So I called the cops. Cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. And they had us just sitting there, and we wanted to keep searching. But everybody came out in droves, and I wanted to thank you guys that night, but we couldn't go outside.
The cops told us the best are out here.
The best are out here searching, and we appreciate it, and nobody ever could never talk to anybody, and that was the issue.
We just want to thank everybody.
We really want to thank you guys.
Please, if anybody has seen them, please call, let somebody know.
Call the cops. Call California's the city police department. Call them and let them know what you've seen, if you see anything. Our boys, they are going to be rambunctious, okay? They are going to be here. in this area, and I really would like to go in the houses, but it's not because I want to invade people's privacy. I just want to know if
Make
they
sure.
make sure. That's it. Rambunctious. Okay. They are going to be here in this area, and I really would like to go in the houses, but it's not because I want to invade people's privacy. I just want to know if
Make
they
sure.
make sure. That's it. Because I don't. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. If you got any questions.
Oh, no, you're good.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, this is the first time we're hearing from you guys. I can't imagine what you guys are going through. I can't even fathom it. For you guys, for people who are thinking that there's some kind of foul play involved, we just spoke to the biological mother. She says she had a conversation with you guys, and that she thinks there's some kind of foul play involved. That she thinks you guys did something.
And that's understandable.
What's your response to that?
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly the point. And if we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no. And that's all I want is to find our babies. That's it. And I talked to her this morning, and I really wanted to tell her that I am completely sorry because we were entrusted with her children, and they came to us, and they became our children. We named them, and they are our children, and so we want them back. So please, if y'all could get back on what you guys are doing, we should be able to get a hold of somebody, but they took all of our tech, so they wanted to, I guess, just rule us out, which makes sense as part of the investigation. So that's pretty much it.
Have you guys, you talked to the police all last night?
Yes.
What, so you guys willfully gave them your
Everything.
technology,
Yes,
the car.
yes.
Did they get it, how did they get a search warrant? Did you
I
guys,
Oh, no
I don't see
idea.
why they got one, but they got one. We
Yeah,
would
they
have let them
didn't
take
need one,
anything.
but
We would have let them take everything. We let them come in and search with us. We asked them to come do that.
what did they take?
Just tech, and that's it. Like our phone.
From the house? Or did
Oh well, I guess should I answer that? Or?
they answer it to us, yeah.
Okay, so into the okay, I guess I don't even know.
I see. Yeah, we seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. Uh, Again, we were told the best are out here looking already. Just to stay put, they have more questions. There was literally a cop with us the whole time in there.
He had sitting down. We would ask him to go help. They had to sit
Said
down.
nope.
He said, "No, we got the best out there.
So
We
it's
need you
not.
guys here in case we have some
I don't want you
questions."
guys thinking
We
we
don't.
didn't try. We actually
We
looked
tried.
before we called
We
the
looked,
police.
yes.
And I imagine the mind-boggling part is the search for information. What happened? Where are they?
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera.
And we're
And just so we are able to present the information correctly, at what time did you guys notice your kids went missing, and at what time were they reported missing to the police?
it's about I believe I think it was about 4:30, going on 5. It was getting dark, like I said, 5ish. That's about it. That's when everything played out.
And then when did you guys call the police to report them missing?
I don't.
After we searched
Yeah.
a little bit around here, it was dark, so we definitely we got worried.
Would you say it was maybe within an hour, a couple hours?
No, it was within minutes of us getting finished with our search. It was within minutes.
What do you guys want people at home to understand about this situation? For them, even speaking about what you guys are feeling is difficult. What do you want them at home to understand about this whole situation?
We're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own their own conclusions. They don't know anything. We're not sure like everything. We're not sure. We said what we knew, and if anybody has seen them, uh, or anything, please call the police department.
Would you like to provide pictures, or do you have any?
I have older pictures. All my newest were on my phone.
A lot of people are speaking of this as, after the math past tense. I want to talk about your kids as present tense. What kind of boys are these? Tell us about the boys.
Very playful, very rambunctious, and they do love to wrestle. They do love to kind of get rough with each
They're
other.
kids.
They're kids. Of course, they would love to go out, but so during the pandemic, we weren't trying to go, out here. And so we stayed inside.
Yes.
Yes, we did. We searched before we called the cops. That's what we were saying.
What time did they come up missing?
They came missing right before it got dark. Then we called. I searched that property. I even drove around this neighborhood right here. I even talked to a gentleman on that side, one of those streets over there. I said, "Did you see some little black kids?" And that's the way I was going to come. But when I came back home, I decided to call the cops because it was dark. They couldn't have got away that fast.
And why did it take two people to go in the house and leave two kids out here by themselves? It should have been one parent going in and one parent right here watching the child. Not two parents going in the house and leaving two little kids out here by themselves for 10 minutes.
No, they were in the backyard. And
So
the back
how
gate
did they
was
get
open.
out the backyard?
And the back gate was open, and I was getting wood
So
from
you
this
guys
lot
being
here.
irresponsible and left the gate open, left some little kids outside with the gate open.
All right. Sorry. You guys were talking about your boys who I understand. For a mother's intuition. I know you were saying, and we'll get your names after this, but you were saying how you feel like they're in this area. Do you feel the same way? And what is the intuition? What is the sense you get? What do you think happened to your boys? Do you think someone took them? Do you think they're lost? Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely know they're not walking around. They're not that kind. They do not just roam around. These patches. They definitely, I think definitely would have been picked up or something.
That's my assumption.
Have they ever taken off?
No.
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 They've never taken off?
No.
You guys are new to Cal City, right?
Yep.
How long have you guys been living here?
Just 3 months.
Hey, y'all say y'all came out looking for the kids, and y'all got neighbors, so y'all even came out.
The neighbors went out here.
We were looking.
We were looking.
I'm just saying, bro, this is crazy, bro. I got kids of my own.
Where do you live?
Them little boys y'all raising, them is my
I understand. I understand,
I
bro.
don't leave kids
Oh, no,
outside,
And
bro.
I understand.
I have 9 kids. I have 9 kids.
There's
There's
outside in
no
the backyard
way I'm
that I was
gonna
watching.
leave my kids unattended.
3
Not
and
even
4-year-olds,
for a minute.
like, you sit here, you sit
I
here,
get,
like,
we
not
get
a
that,
kid
we
in
get
your
it.
heart, bro.
They're in the
We
backyard.
feel it.
You don't even look like you worried,
But
bro.
you said the gate.
I've
Why
been
would, okay,
going
y'all know
through it
y'all
all
finna, y'all
few
know
days.
y'all finna go inside the house, right? Y'all are foster parents, right?
No.
Okay,
we're
well, y'all
adopted
adopted them,
Yeah,
right?
they are
Okay,
too.
shut the gate. Go in the house. Why did it take both of y'all to go in the house and leave them outside by themselves?
I understand.
And y'all
that.
know the gate was
Why
open.
haven't y'all been out with the people around the neighborhood looking?
Because we already told on camera.
I
We already
see
told on
y'all on
camera.
no cameras last night. I
No.
didn't even see y'all out here praying with them people. Them people was out to take care of my nephew. Not this, not supposed to happen.
I understand.
Y'all was supposed to take care of my nephew.
I understand.
You act-
If anybody's watching at home who knows anything, or if somebody who has these kids, if they're watching, what is your message to them?
The message has always been as soon as possible, call the California City Police Department, and please bring our babies home. And that's that.
That's one of the reasons why I actually didn't want to
This
do
is the reason why. Because
the Bio family.
we were under orders to stay in the house and stay because they're going to need to contact us, and we cannot go outside, and that was the issue. We were under orders by the cops to stay home in the house and let the professionals look.
But you just said that they were your children. If they were your children, regardless of what somebody told you, wouldn't you want to go look for them?
Well, we have cops actually posted in the front door right there. I totally understand.
We understand. If you guys actually have that question, you should ask the police officer. situation, but do you see how it seems that,
Yeah.
that the kids was left unattended? You guys went in the house and then the kids disappeared. How did they disappear?
Exactly, and that's the one we're trying to figure out.
How? It doesn't make sense. How did they disappear? How did they go out? You guys had the house supervised already. And my question is, why were they the only two children out? Where were the rest of the kids?
That's the kids with grandma.
With who?
They left. They went on vacation.
So they did it.
No, because they're too young. We watched them. And it turns out that happened.
How did the
All right,
other
guys,
They're older.
just really quickly before we guys, first and last names, spelling of both for both of you guys.
So, Susan, say it again.
Just first and last name,
Spelling of who or what?
or just your first and last name.
Our names.
Trezell West.
Jacqueline
It's
West.
Trezell West.
Okay, and for you,
JACQUELINE.
I'm sorry, one more time.
JACQUELINE.
West.
Yes.
Okay, guys. We'll let you go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for
No.